Confused about which lark's head knot to use and when? Let's break it down once and for all. Hey everyone, it's Nicole here from BOCHIKNOT Macrame, and in this video we're going to be going over a very special topic specifically related to the lark's head knot. So there are a few variations of the lark's head knot that is frequently used in macrame. We use the lark's head knot, the lark's head plus half hitch knot, and the reverse lark's head plus half hitch. Now the lark's head knot and the reverse lark's head plus half hitch are two knots that I use very often in my macrame projects. The lark's head knot plus half hitch is also a very popular mounting knot. I don't use it as often, but I see it frequently used in a lot of macrame projects. And so the question here is, when and where do I use each of these knots? I'm going to break it down for you in this video, so make sure you watch all the way through to the end. And with that said, let's jump right in. So I have a dowel here, and I'm going to show you the knots that we are talking about in that question first. So the first knot is lark's head plus half hitch. So we're going to start with a lark's head knot. So I folded the cord in half. I'm taking the cord ends through the loop. And this is a regular lark's head knot. And then half hitch knot on both sides. Left cord through the loop. So like this is a lark's head plus half hitch knot. And then the other knot we were talking about is just a regular lark's head, which is like this. Take the cord, fold it in half, just take the cord ends through. That's a lark's head knot. There is another variation because this is a lark's head plus half hitch. I don't use this one too much. What I do use quite a bit is reverse lark's head plus half hitch. So we start off with a reverse lark's head knot first, which is opposite of how we made the lark's head knot. So we go under and then we pull the cord ends through. And you can see here that there is no loop here. It's the back side. You'll see the loop on the back side. That's why this is a reverse lark's head knot, and then plus half hitch. So make a half hitch knot on both sides. Okay, so we have our three variations of these knots here. So when we're looking at the lark's head plus half hitch and the reverse lark's head plus half hitch, you can see it takes up double the amount of space versus just a plain old lark's head knot. So this is the same whether you're mounting this onto a dowel, a ring, or another strand of cord. So it doesn't matter the base. If you add those half hitches, you're doubling the amount of space. So at what point would you use either of these knots? So for wall hangings, it really depends on what kind of knots you're planning to use for the rest of your pattern. If you're using a combination of square knots, so if you're starting off with square knots and then you're using double half hitch knots or whichever knots later, I would recommend using just the lark's head knot for square knots. And that is because, here I'll show you, square knots don't need a lot of spacing in between the knots. I'm just going to add another lark's head knot here. So you need 4 vertical cords to make a square knot typically. So I'm going to make a square knot here. Okay, so as you can see, made the square knot, and the width of the square knot is pretty much exactly the width of 2 lark's head knots. Now, if you instead use either of these knots, reverse lark's head plus half hitch or lark's head plus half hitch, and you have 2 of these and you try to make a square knot, you're going to have large gaps in between your square knots, which is probably something you don't want to happen. So if you're starting off the pattern with square knots, recommend using lark's head knots. Now when you would use these knots is if you are starting the pattern off with double half-hitch knots. Especially if you are mounting, say, the cords onto another cord to make a double half-hitch knot leaf, a flower petal, etc. Intricate macrame projects using double half-hitch knots, we typically use reverse lark's head plus half-hitch knots, just because reverse lark's head plus half-hitch mimics 2 double half-hitch knots, as you can see here. So I'll show you what I mean by that on a cord base instead. So that will be my horizontal anchor cord. I'm taking another strand folded in half for reverse lark's head plus half-hitch. So right here, so you can see this is a reverse lark's head plus half-hitch, so same as this knot here, but you can see it kind of mimics 2 double half-hitch knots. So once you've mounted that and say you fold the anchor cord down, you can now make 2 double half-hitch knots and they will look exactly like the reverse lark's head plus half-hitch knot. So that's 1 double half-hitched, you can already see that. So once you're done, this is what that looks like, even though this was actually a reverse lark's head plus half-hitch and these are 2 double half-hitch knots, they look the same. And that's because 1 double half-hitch knot is equivalent to the 2 loops on the other side. So if you are starting off your wall hanging or plant hanger or pattern with double half-hitch knots, and you say you're using an anchor cord here for double half-hitch knots, because it will take up the same amount of space as the reverse lark's head plus half-hitch above, then I would use the reverse lark's head plus half-hitch as the mounting knot. You could also use the lark's head plus half-hitch as well. You would only need to use reverse lark's head plus half-hitch, say, if you are making a leaf pattern and you don't want that loop part to stick out. So here's our 2 double half-hitch knots, and you can see that the width of that is the width of the reverse lark's head plus half-hitch. Now, say for a wall hanging, even if you're starting off a pattern with rows and rows of double half-hitch knots, you could still use lark's head knots. You don't necessarily have to use lark's head plus half-hitch or reverse lark's head plus half-hitch, and that's because if you choose to just use regular lark's head knots, you'll just have a gap in between each of the double half-hitch knots, and that's definitely your personal preference. If you want to cover up the majority of the spacing on your mounting object, or if you want it all covered. If you want it all covered, so cord after cord, then you will want to use the reverse lark's head or lark's head plus half-hitch. But if you're okay with consistent spacing throughout, then regular lark's head is also fine with double half-hitch knots as well. And that's a wrap with this tutorial on deciphering when to use which lark's head knot variation. I hope you guys gained some insight on when to use a lark's head knot and when to use a reverse lark's head plus half-hitch knot. These are very versatile knots in that The back of a lark's head knot, so the reverse lark's head, mimics the look of one double half-hitch knot in certain scenarios. And this is why if you're making a lot of very intricate projects using double half-hitch knots, reverse lark's head or reverse lark's head plus half-hitch knots are great mounting knots to use. If this video sparked any new questions or comments, make sure you leave them in the comment section below and I'll try my best to get back to them. And if you're interested in elevating your macrame skill set with more intricate macrame projects, you may be interested in our YouTube membership or our exclusive community over on Patreon. I'll link both of those in the video description below so you can check those out. And as always, thank you guys for watching and I'll see you guys next time.